I'm not here to tell you to buy American Eagle jeans. And I definitely won't say that they're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn. Or that they make your butt look amazing.
What began seemingly as an innocent advertising campaign for American Eagle jeans featuring rising global star Sydney Sweeney escalated in the USA literally within days into a nationwide discussion touching politics, culture, and cancel culture specifically, causing a grandiose scandal and resonance worldwide and even intervention from the White House and America's largest political forces. Well, Sydney herself, who became the face of the new advertising campaign for the jeans brand, found herself at the very epicenter of an incredible scandal when everyone started shaming her with disgrace.
Sydney Sweeney has great jeans. Guess that's now a coded sign.
From feminist fighters for women's rights, accusing her of pandering to objectification and consumerist attitude toward the fair sex, to university professors, activists, and even BLM participants who called Sweeney nothing less than the new face of global Nazism and declared her their worst enemy. In short, a company that started as an innocent joke ultimately caused accusations of propaganda of the worst prejudices and inciting problematic theme. And then, the conflict escalated even more sharply when the White House and Donald Trump's administration intervened in the situation, defending Sydney Sweeney and attacking her critics, but at the same time dragging into the conflict their enemies from the Democratic camp, accusing them of all mortal sins. In short, the situation indeed went in the most unexpected direction. One of the most popular young actresses in Hollywood, Sydney Sweeney, star of the sensational Euphoria and White Lotus, becomes the face of an advertising campaign for American Eagle jeans. The idea, at first glance, is simple and even witty. The whole company is built on a play on words between jeans and jeans, which are written differently but sound practically the same in English. And now in one of the short clips, Sydney, dressed in a stylish denim outfit, says something like jeans, well, or jeans, here, whoever hears what, are passed down from parents, determining hair color, character, and even eye color. The camera glides over her perfectly fitting blue jeans, then focuses on her blue eyes. The result is a slogan that connects her good jeans with the brand's good jeans. Cute, harmless, well, not quite. Because in the modern world, especially in media space, harmlessness is a very fragile thing. So almost instantly after the release of this advertisement, the internet simply exploded. And the word jeans, too similar in the context of advertising to the word jeans, pronounced by a blonde, blue-eyed actress, for many sounded not like a compliment, but like an ominous hint and even real Nazism. Yes, nothing more, nothing less. Adding fuel to the fire was also the fact that it seems last year, current US President Donald Trump called exactly bad jeans the cause of fictional or real crimes committed by migrants. And now, many considered that the new advertisement with Sydney plays into this scandalous and not too hidden discourse in the USA, after which, of course, things took off. The advertisement featuring Sydney was called overly sexualized, creepy, empty, and pretentious. Some even lamented that the actress humiliates herself by acting as a useless sexual object. Although, perhaps, there's some irony here. Because, again, probably part of the caustic criticism directed at Sydney, in which women were especially generous with harsh words, was dictated not only and not so much by principles, as by some envy. What do you say? You can write your thoughts on this matter in the comments. Also, visit and check out in the pinned post of our Telegram Sydney in all her glory, because here we unfortunately cannot show such things. Well, so of course, the loudest screaming started not even from feminists who have long classified Sweeney in the category of fallen women, shamelessly earning money on their mortal body and others' lust, but from people who saw in the actress's behavior and her new advertisement real racism and even Nazism. Critics immediately appeared who declared, look, this is all pure eugenics, the teaching about selection applied to humans whose goal is to improve the hereditary qualities of the human species. These critics saw in the advertisement not just a play on words, but a glorification of the Aryan ideal of beauty and a dangerous idea that there are good and bad genes. So conditional activists now declared that this was not just an advertising video, but a so-called dog whistle, a hidden signal for people with racist and ultra-right views. Well, and comments under posts by Sydney personally and the American Eagle brand immediately filled with anger. "We can leave Nazi Germany where it was defeated? Thank you," wrote, for example, one of the users. Others pointed out that the advertisement was shot from a frankly male point of view, objectifying the actress and returning us to an era when a woman in advertising was just a beautiful object. Didn't she herself say that she doesn't want to be perceived as an object? She harms all women in the world with her disgusting antics. That's the approximate tone of commentators on the network. Moreover, what seemingly should have been forgotten in a day, on the contrary, kept gaining more and more momentum. So already the American Eagle brand tried to somehow smooth the sharp corners by releasing a new advertising slogan. Like, good jeans suit everyone, but the avalanche could no longer be stopped. Especially when, like a devil from a snuff box, heavy artillery suddenly intervened in the situation, the White House with Trump's administration and prominent Republican figures who, in turn, obviously saw in this a perfect opportunity to attack their political opponents, Democrats and conditional crazy leftists. So first, this scandal was commented on by a White House representative who spoke out, stating that this kind of commotion ultimately became the reason for Trump's election. Supposedly, the majority got tired of such fierce nonsense as the leftists are now stirring up, calling their criticism an out-of-control cancel culture. And then, no less than the US Vice President J.D. Vance also joined the discussion with pleasure, urging Democrats to continue escalating outrage. Although, to be fair, it must be recognized that not a single high-ranking official of the Democratic Party expressed their opinion on this issue. Nevertheless, Vance stated the following: "My political advice to Democrats: keep telling everyone who thinks Sydney Sweeney is attractive that they're Nazis. That seems to be exactly what your real strategy consists of," he summarized, and then continued. Ultimately, this reveals something quite interesting about Democrats. Namely, they see an ordinary American beauty who appears in an ordinary jeans advertisement. People are trying to simply sell jeans, and they managed to drive themselves so crazy over all this, the vice president declared. Then Senator Ted Cruz intervened, who wrote on social media, "Wow, now the crazy left is turning against beautiful women. I'm sure this will bring them many votes." Well, and White House Communications Director Stephen Chung altogether called this whole story a rampage of cancel culture and perverted, idiotic liberal thinking. In short, what started simply as an advertisement, even if slightly provocative, has long since risen to the level of political and cultural wars in the USA. And not only because this topic is now being covered by all world publications. As for Sydney herself, she, at least at the time of creating this video, remains silent. But the story didn't end there. As if adding fuel to the fire, shortly after this advertisement appeared a Dunkin' Donuts advertisement that also played with the theme of genetics. For critics, this became the last straw and another proof that their fears were not in vain. They saw in this no longer a coincidence, but a dangerous cultural trend: normalization of ideas about genetic superiority. Sydney herself was declared public enemy #1 by much broader popular masses. Although, speaking truthfully, I think they're still in the overwhelming minority. And yet now, Sydney Sweeney's professional, primarily Hollywood activity, found itself under a certain question. For example, as Empire magazine writes, citing anonymously one of the prominent film producers of The Dream Factory, if the situation doesn't calm down soon, and Sydney Sweeney becomes some kind of idol of the ultra-right and the main enemy of conditional left progressive layers of society and university elite, then for very many film studios, cooperation with her may prove too risky and toxic. So the consequences of a series of short advertising clips may turn out to be much louder and more threatening than one could think. Although, for example, CNN, on the contrary, in its article talks about how Sydney emerges from this national quarrel even stronger than ever. She's capable of creating conversations around herself and igniting debates while essentially never causing direct anger. She's an object of envy, jealousy, or a symbol of something else, but no one ever claims she's a bad person. And if they do claim it, it only makes her more attractive to the market, the publication writes. So overall, I think when the dust settles, perhaps the young actress's fees will only grow even more. As for American Eagle Company, their stocks also grew against the background of this scandal. That is, the advertising campaign not only fulfilled its goals, but even exceeded any expectations. And actually, at a loss, it seems to me, remained only the furious critics and conspiracy theory supporters who saw in all this construction of another Reich and other nonsense, and who once again spent strength, energy, and nerves, and ultimately remained empty-handed. What do you think about this whole story and generally about the very fact that the whole world is still seriously discussing such precedents? Write your thoughts in the comments, don't forget to subscribe, and also put a like under this video.